So for our potting on mix, we're going to be potting these on. So we've got the Roma, the Alicante and the Moneymaker tomatoes in there. There's 5 double handfuls of the clover compost, the potting compost clover, and 2 double handfuls of vermiculite. I don't know if you can make that out. Vermiculite, that's fine vermiculite. There's 5 double handfuls and a sprinkle now in there, so that's all mixed in. And because we're potting them on and we want that root growth, that'll be good airy soil for the roots the fine roots to spread the wings inside when they're in the pots. I'm going to put a little bit of bone meal in there, so it'll be sort of like 3 or 4% bone meal going in there. Bone meal helps root development. So 5% of the whole mix is going to be bone meal. Is that a good mixing in? Yeah, probably about a tablespoon, heaped tablespoonful for every double handful of compost. That was about half full, basically, of the bone meal, and that's gone in. And that is going to be our potting on mix. So the compost is going to be going into these pots. So from a tray where they're overcrowded into a big pot like that, in comparison, those little tomato plants will be loving that. And they'll stay in those for about 10 days until they're ready for going into the really big buckets, like that. And then they'll be going into something like that, which you saw on the previous episode, about 3 or 4 episodes ago.
Yeah, so tonight we're going to be doing tomatoes. We're going to be planting on 4 different varieties today. These are the only 2 of the black Russian tomatoes, or tomatoes. You will say tomato, I say tomato. That's Mick Pippin is on. So these are the only 2 black Russians that we've got. And they were gifted to us by Uncle Joe, I think. That was the magical elf. These are from Magical Michael at Old McDarby's farm next door. You want to check his channel out, Old McDarby. Always up to some trick or other. And those are Roma. So we've got Roma, and we've also got, which is just out of my dinky little arms reach, Alicante. These ones are Alicante, which we started these a few months ago, really. February, I think it was, end of February. We started these. They're getting a bit leggy, but we can still use them. And lastly, do I have to get up? No, I don't. I can just about manage it. We've got Moneymaker. And these are the 16th of the 2nd, 20. Shake your Moneymaker. Right, alright. We've got Arrivederci Roma, Alicante. And we've also got the Moneymaker and 2 black Russian tomatoes. So we're going to be potting them, and we've got plenty of these pots to go around. I only really want 3 of each, but I'm going to have to settle for 2 of the black Russian. They're quite a big one, quite a big beef tomato. So I'm not too bothered. But I want 3 of each of the others. So that's what we're going to be doing. So we should be potting about 9 on. Here's one that I made earlier in the Blue Peter style. That was potted on from one of those seed trays in, I think it was March the 29th. So that's been in nearly 4 weeks now in its black pot, and it's doing okay, but it needs to be planted on. It needs to get in the ground really that now. Okay, so we'll get cracking. See you in a bit. Black Russian then. They're going to be the first two to be potted on. Yeah. Now, I'm going to, like we did with the sweet corn, I'm going to tease these apart, but with water, a little bit of water. Not as much as we did with the sweet corn, but just to soften up the ball that it's in and loosen up that ball, and then try and tease them apart. So I've got my bucket of water here, so I'm just going to dip them in and agitate them a little bit. Might have to stand for that, actually. I will. But just a little dip. And as you can see there, that little dip has got rid of a lot of that. There's the one that didn't make the cut. Got rid of a lot of that. Now, they pull apart nicely. And you get the root system from each of those. Now with a tomato plant, you can plant the tomato plant all the way up its stem, really. So any leaves that you want to take out, I'm not going to take any leaves out of this one because you've still got about 2 inches of burying space. But you probably won't be able to make that out, but there are little tiny hairs on it. And those little tiny hairs down near the base are what will grow into root as it grows along. So you can plant them to more or less any depth, really, tomatoes, and it will send out roots. And we'll show you in a later episode how we get rid of the suckers. The suckers lie in the elbow joint of the plant. And if you can see that, if you can imagine that's this is the elbow, that's the arm, bent, the bicep part, the forearm part. This grows in the crook of the elbow, and you can cut that out. We're going to leave this one till it's about that long. Cut that out, trim it out, and then pot it on. All the other ones we're going to take off. And what you'll find with this sucker is it'll turn into another tomato plant, a new tomato plant. You can do that with all the suckers, but we're going to be taking those out because we're going to single stem this, what they call single stem this, running up the poles. Again for another episode. Yeah, that was a fly went in my throat. I won't edit that out, we'll leave it in for comedy effect. He's going to be another plant. We're keeping him, he's a keeper. Okay, so we'll do that. I'll just make me hole. As you can see, these, that twist around a little bit will make the hole. So we'll do that now. That's all showing. In the centre goes the hole. A little riddle around like this. We'll get our little mate. Come on, little mate. In fact, I'll make a bit of a deeper hole so we can get the whole lot of him in. We'll drop him in. I'll earth him. Give him a good seat. Good seated perch. If you remember with the mix that we were having, but I can't see that, can you? We'll just alter that a little bit. So you can see it. Let's get that up a bit higher until you're a little bit forward. You should be able to see that. That might be alright, that. You can still see me. Yeah, you have to lean forward a little bit, but let's sort something out. Oh, sorry about this, guys and gals. It's very unprofessional, I know. But as you know, I'm not very professional on this. You still can't even see me. How's that? That's better. So yeah, we can gently firm him in to there. Give him a bit of a top round. A bit more compost in like that. Sprinkle a bit of the old vermiculite around. Easy as pie. And we'll stick that in the water trough once he's had his little label. That's all you do. That's all you do. I'm going to do that with the rest of them. I'll show you the end result in the trays. Yeah, so when you put it in your mix, because it's not the finest filtered of compost, it's good quality compost, but it's not the most finest filtered of compost. You do come across bits and pieces of lumps and twigs and stuff that are in there. What we do with them is we chuck them. So because I've not got a floor in here at the moment, I just ditch them on the floor as I'm potting them up. So any big chunks and big fluffy bundles like that, I take out. Yeah. Get our dibber, in goes the dibber. Give it a swizz around. Ready to receive now, that. And we're on to the money maker. So I'll just, because you've seen that last bit where we actually are putting them into the pots and what we do for that, I'm just going to pause you now and then show you how easily it is to put vermiculite on the top and talk about vermiculite then. Okie dokie. Yeah, so vermiculite helps to prevent any soil-borne pathogens from splashing up off the compost, if there is any in there, and getting onto the leaves. It also retains the moisture within the pot, helps to retain the moisture, and dries or keeps it relatively dry around where the stem base is, so that the stem base hopefully doesn't suffer from rotting off when it gets a bit too damp. It starts to rot off, it gets poorly. So to do that, we get the vermiculite in there, shovel it with our fingers. This is the fancy Dan way of doing it, but you can just chuck it in if you want. I just tenderly move it around with my fingers like that until all the base is kind of covered with a carpet of it. Like that. And then put your money maker label in. As you can see there, I've planted it down. I've took the first two leaves off the bottom of it and planted it down to the second set of leaves. The second set of leaves will probably be coming out as well. But as it grows, as the plant grows, the leaves at the bottom really are unnecessary. So when they get planted into the buckets later on, we could drop them down another sort of 5 or 6 inches, taking off the base of the leaves, leaving a little bit of a gap between where the soil's going to land and where your first set of leaves that you're leaving on are going to be. Probably leave about 5 or 6 inches, maybe, depending on how big the plant is. So for this one will be having everything taken off up until about here, so you've got another 4 inches then to drop it down into the soil with an earth around that. Same sort of a principle as we've done here when they're going into the buckets. And the more root mass you have, the better really for the plant. Gives it a good firm anchoring. Speaking fluent Wiganese, I'll try and speak a little bit more correctly. Although if you don't like Wiganese, it's your own fault, isn't it? Money maker, there's another one. So I've only got my Alicante to do now, and I'll do those now. These ones that we're leaving behind that we've not selected are not going to waste. They're going to be taken up to the top shed. We're not going in the top broom shed, but we're going to leave them out. Anything you leave outside the shed at the front, other people know that they can take what they want. So it's a sort of a swap shop. You put everything up there. If you want it, you take it. If you don't want it, you can leave it there. As long as it's useful stuff, you know, you're not fly tipping or anything, but it's like excess seeds, like we've got the excess seedlings. Yeah, so what I did forget to tell you is, we do the same thing as we do with the sweet corn. It's an Uncle Joe from Mexico wise old elf trick. you don't leave 100% of the root ball on. When you've got the danglers like that, the sort of tap roots sneaking down, you pinch out the last quarter. According to Joe, that encourages the plant to spread out. So we'll hope that is the case. But they're going to be buried down up until the first set of leaves. Now with that one, you can see from that one, there's a good couple of 3 inches there before you get to that. I've just took out those basil leaves now, but it's getting leggy, that one. So that's why I've done that. I'm going to plant it down deeply. So if you remember that one, that was quite long. It was like that. Like that. It's gone down a good 1.5 inches into the compost. And then the fine hairs should grow out, create more roots, give it a firmer anchor in the ground, and up she comes, good and healthy. If you remember, we put a little bit of bone meal in as well, but not very much, just a little bit. So the compost mix is probably about 60% clover compost, about 37% vermiculite, and probably around about 3% of the fine bone meal. And that's all you need. You don't need anything else to feed them at all at this stage. Let the roots grow, let the roots find the feet. Good, strong, healthy plants come from good, strong initial root growth. That's the wise old elf talking there, not me, but it makes absolute sense to me. And there we are. Less than a minute apiece to do those, easy. So that was a 10-minute job, that one. Took longer probably filming it than it did doing it. So we get this is the fresh, clean tap water. At this baby stage, what you should do, and what I didn't do on 2 of them, but what you should do is use fresh, clean tap water. And because of the chlorine content, you leave it out in the sun, or you leave it out in here for a day. That'll be the same temperature as the environment. It'll not be too cold, and the chlorine will have dissipated massively to the point where there's hardly any chlorine left in it, but it will be clean. It'll be clean water. Now in about half an hour, they'll all look like these ones over here because of capillary action. It'll soak it up through the compost. You don't have to water it from the top. You as well really with tomatoes not watering from the top, for many reasons which we'll go into later. But one of them is you get the soil pathogens splashing up when you water from the top. That's one of the reasons. And if you're using rainwater as well, what happens then is you get the algae, which we've got in those 2 over there, because I used rainwater. And because I didn't use rainwater, I used the clean tap water in here, you haven't got the same issues. I don't know why it's a bit misty this tonight. It is a bit of a misty night though, I must say. Tonight, a little bit foggy. And there we are. Like I say, happy days. Okay, yeah, so that's me for the evening. I hope you found that interesting and you've actually learned something from that. I think it's a pretty good way of potting on. It's fine. It'll work for you. You shouldn't have any issues there with your tomato plants, and that's what it's all about. We love watching other growers and speaking to the other, as Joe calls them, old asses on here, because they're a wealth of knowledge, and it's all tried and tested and true stuff that they've practiced for years in their gardening techniques, and we're picking up on that. They love sharing information with you in the same way that we do. Being relatively new growers, I've only been growing really for about 5 years, 6 years. I soak it up like a sponge because it's like an addiction, the gardening. It's really good. And so whatever we can pick up, we'll pass on to you from other people and ourselves, and the knowledge that we're gathering through books and interaction with the gardeners in your locality, because they'll know what works in your locality. And you can always experiment with other things, and if they work, they work. If they don't, they don't. Well, that's a tried and tested method, that. So I hope you new growers get something from that, and maybe even some of you older, more experienced growers do as well. I've been going to Murphinda. I can't even speak now. And I've been down here for an hour. That's one of the things I've been doing tonight. If I don't see you through the week, I'll see you through the window. This is Guru Murphinda, and I am signing out. And remember, keep growing with your head down, and we love you all. Tatty bye, folks.